not being in stations is absolutely key. But we also have to recognise that we have a central government where the funds have been dropping every year. We have 25% less money, we have 655 fewer officers. Now, I'm not being defensive, I'm just saying those are the facts of the matter. The Assistant Chief Constable said that he will get someone to be able to take on the issues that you have raised. And I'd like to add my apology as well, because you shouldn't have to come to a public meeting like this in order to share this with you. So it will be looked at. Okay, thank you. This gentleman. Oh, sorry.
Can I just add just two points? So, firstly, and we obviously knew you were coming from your attendance list. We knew you were coming from the attendance list. We knew that you had genuine concerns about the way that which we were handling or not handling your case. The sergeant responsible for your area is in the room. He sat right in front of you. It's Dan Bishop. He will be really, really pleased to meet with you, and in line with the promises made, will resolve some of these issues that you rightly raised. And the other point that you said about the very unfortunate and sad cases in Bristol, the job that I had before I came back to Somerset West was indeed unpicking the saddest case of the death of Bijan Ibrahimi and all the forced learning from that. So in terms of my teams being able to do the best job they can, and I appreciate that you haven't had the service that you deserve, and we will unpick it, but in terms of the understanding and what we need to do, I would be passionately interested into where we've let you down and what we've got wrong, and I also know exactly how to put it right from the experiences learnt in that case. So I do reassure you that, and although we haven't had a conversation, which I'm sad about, we will pick this up.
This gentleman with the glasses on his head with the bluish, I'm going to say blue shirt, I can't actually see. But
Right, thank you very much. I'm not used to public speaking, so I'll do my best, but please bear with me. I'd like to just answer a couple of questions from the lady saying, where's our police? What are they doing about some of the issues? The gentleman has obviously got a lot of very serious issues to deal with next to where he lives. As well as obviously you said that about the vulnerable people, what the police have to look after in society, etc., which I all accept, and I'm sure we all do here. But just to, maybe if I could just use my own personal example of what happened to me only Sunday. If I just put in the background, I run an engineering workshop, look after over 100 commercial vehicles in Weston, not in Bridgwater as it happens. We have, on a daily basis, we have first-hand knowledge of antisocial behaviour and drug and alcohol abuse, which is right next to where we work. I work with 15 people, and just as a straw poll, very, very few, or 1 out of the 15 had the slightest bit of confidence and trust in the police force at the moment. That's not to say they were very negative, but they didn't have much trust and confidence in the moment. On Sunday, my son rang me up. I'll keep as brief as possible, but this is my issue really. My son rang me and said, could I come and jump start his car? On the way to jump start it, we're going through Bridgwater, turn right down into Wilds Road. There was a police car with 2 policemen just coming out of the junction. As I looked at them, they were looking straight at me. Didn't think any more of it. As I got to the top of Wilds Road by the motorcycle garage, all the lights and sirens etc. were flashing on the car behind me. I thought, oh good heavens, what have I done? Perhaps I've not indicated, or I've got a light not working or something. I went over the bridge, they turned their lights off, so I carried on, but they were still behind me. I thought, better watch your speed like anyone else would do. Turned into the road where my son lived, all the lights etc. on again, so I pulled over immediately. The policeman got out and I said, what have I done? So I did apologise, and he said, just thought I'd tell you that your windows in the front of your motorhome are far too tinted. I said, well, I'm really sorry, I can't believe that could be a problem. I've had it for 3 years, no one's ever commented since. He said, well, asked me to produce all my details, driving licence, etc., name, date of birth, etc. And he said, you've got 2 choices. You either start peeling the window vinyl off, or you have a prohibition notice, which means they can't use your van, it's off the road, I won't be able to get to work in Weston. Now, I said to my manager at a workshop, we look after over 100 vehicles, I said, surely I just can't go on your say-so, I'll have to peel, might damage the glass on my windows, at which point he said, well, there is a metre, but we haven't got one, but we'll phone and get someone else that could come and do that, roadside. We waited there for what seemed about half an hour, it might have been a bit less, it might have been a bit more, and a lady police officer turned up, she said, oh, I've come to have a look at your windows, oh, they do look a bit darker than what they should be, and the policeman said, well, I've already told him he needs to peel the windows off. I said, well, I might damage the windows. I'll have to phone my son, who was going just around the corner. Perhaps he can bring a razor blade or something, but I really don't want to damage them. But I said, surely if there is a bit of machinery or equipment or something, that we could measure it. she said, if you bring your van back to the Bridgwater police station later this evening, I'll have it there and we'll do it out this way. I'd had a ticket issued which said that I either have to go to court or get some sort of fine or something, which I signed. I was cautioned, say anything I would say, we'd taken down in evidence, what have you. As far as I was concerned, I didn't really realise I'd done anything wrong. I attended the police station later that night after a jump started my son's car. The lady eventually came out and said, I'm really sorry, we haven't got the equipment to test your vehicle here. It's in Cheddar. So no problem at all. She said, what I'll do is I'm on duty at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll come to your house. You only live 200 yards away from the police station. No problem at all, I said. 6 o'clock I waited in. I was supposed to go and see my grandchildren. My daughter brought my grandchildren from the house. At 8:30 she arrived at my house with the metre, okay, that she said had come from Bristol, okay. I'd asked if it had been calibrated. It had so-called been calibrated that week. She did the test. Lo and behold, it met the minimum standards, okay. She apologised for the time it took, but surely those policemen would have been far better off dealing with the drunkards, the alcohol abuse, the antisocial behaviour and all the rest of it. I was told to rip up my ticket. Right? Surely that's not the right answer. I've emailed in the meantime saying, please can I have some sort of response to say that if I ever get stopped in the meantime, that I don't have to go through this all again. You understand? There must have been, the lady came from Weston to my house to do the test. Look at the time, that's probably over 5 hours of 3 different policemen's time. Surely that's a waste of resources. I then explained to the guys I work with and said, look, you know, everybody was actually very, very negative, got very little confidence in the police force. We need you, you're a service to us. We need you guys to be on side, not picking on the people that are easy pickings, easy crimes to solve. And when I believe the guy that stopped me originally, it would have been a cost to me and possible damage to me on something that didn't need doing anyway.
Okay. On behalf of the force, I apologise, because from everything you said there, that shouldn't have happened. And you're quite right. We have got more important, more challenging things to be doing with our time. I think the way forward with that, again, we'd like to take your details after the meeting. There's clearly some learning there, with the caveat that obviously we'll invite those officers to provide their accounts. But from everything you've said, it feels a very disproportionate and actually a very unusual way of going about things. So we will learn from that experience, and as I said, I do apologise.
If I just say, everybody was very polite. They weren't impolite,
Yeah.
didn't talk to me abusively or the rest of it, and so was I. I didn't question anything other than the fact that I didn't want to take somebody's word for it. But I sit here, I read all the local, especially in the local press, etc., all the bad things that are going on, hear the examples that the lady's given and the gentleman's given next to me. It just seems to me if you really need to get your police to target the right areas.
I mean, as police officers, we have the absolute privilege of using our discretion, but with that goes responsibility. And as I said, with the caveat that obviously I haven't spoken to those officers, that doesn't appear to be the best use of their time or their discretion. So again, I apologise.
So if you can, Joe, can you put your hand up? Joe Pacina, Sergeant there. If you can make yourself known to him at the end of the meeting if that's convenient to you, and if it isn't, just give him your details and he'll ring out a convenient time to you. We'll take all those details and we'll work out what we need to do next to put that right.
Okay, the lady in the red.
Lovely. Thank you. May I? Thank you. Hi.
Sorry.
I'm newly joined the neighbourhood watch because we had a problem in our street with drug dealers. And I would like to thank the police. I'm maybe talking to the wrong audience here, but they were efficient, they were fast, there was increased patrols in our area by cars, but it did take a lot of work by myself to get other neighbours to complain to the police. And that's where their intelligence came from, and that culminated in a raid. And we finally got rid of our drug dealers. Goodness knows they probably went somewhere else, but they weren't in our street anymore. So I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you just tell us so that we know, where was, are you happy to disclose where that was, and you don't have to build it?
St John's Road in Burnham-on Sea. And it was fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make sure your compliments are passed back to the team.
Yes, also I dealt via email for all of it, and I don't want to see a police officer. Thanks very much, I'm too busy. But the email responses were brilliant. Thank you.
So just so we can make sure that we help you recruit perhaps new Neighbourhood Watch members and get in that community,
Yeah.
behind you, Ryan, put your hands up, is Sergeant Ryan Edwards, who's responsible for that team. If you want to catch up with him afterwards so that we can make sure that we assist you to get your neighbours online, then we will.
Okay, Kate.
Oh, hello. Tonight we have a few representatives from the Our Voice Somerset Forum for People with Learning Disabilities. And just reading your pamphlet here, could you just explain what the channel programme is, please? Because no one within my group is aware of it.
Yeah. Sorry,
It says here, supporting vulnerable people in the Channel programme
Right.
with learning disabilities. Could
sorry,
you
I couldn't
explain-
couldn't see who was speaking there.
Right,
Yeah, I
yes.
can
Could you
explain it. Yeah.
what that is, please, because people who are
Okay,
with me tonight don't know.
Yeah, there is a government strategy called Contest, which is designed to counter terrorism. A key part of that strategy is what they call the prevent strand, which is obviously to prevent people going towards terrorism. A key part of the prevent strand is a thing called channel. And what that essentially tries to do is where people may be vulnerable to being influenced by the internet, by faith groups, whatever it is, they try to work together with that person to channel them away from that type of thought or activity. And it's a joined up approach with police, local authority, particularly education. It's a risk-based approach. So obviously if somebody is higher risk, there'll be more wraparound. But in short, it's about trying to get hold of people who may be susceptible to that type of influence and try and channel them into more social responsibility.
Thank you.
Hi, I don't want to criticise anything. It's just something that me and my sister have both kind of been talking about quite a lot. And that's speeding in the town and quite aggressive kind of behaviour behind the wheel. I have to drive now daily through the town to get to work and back, and I've noticed it quite a lot. People tailgating me when I'm doing the 30-mile-an-hour limit, and I'm just finding it quite intimidating now. I'm quite a confident person, but I feel that I'm being intimidated by following the rules and doing all the things I should do. And the amount of times I've noticed, particularly along Broadway, Monmouth Street, where it's a dual carriageway, the amount of speeding vehicles and the amount of times I've nearly seen someone knocked over on that pedestrian crossing on Monmouth Street is quite shocking. I know there's lots of, the speed cameras outside of town, and there's things like speed bumps along Bower Estate, but they don't slow anyone down. I can hear cars tearing along there at night, and I'm just wondering if, there's anything in the plan about speeding in the town centres. I know occasionally I do see a speed camera van parked up somewhere, but not probably as often as I would like to see one. I'm reading about your volunteers for speed awareness. I'd quite like to get involved in, helping with that. But I've never seen any in the towns. I believe maybe they're out in outlying villages or something.
Yeah, we have. So
Thank you very much for offering for a community speed watch. I mean, they play an essential part in reducing speed. One of the things that since I've been in this role since 2012, we have done a massive investment on trying to reduce the level of speed particularly in Somerset. So we have invested in 9 vans that are mobile vans that will go around the area, and 6 bikes so that because they've got to go into safe places, some of the villages, particularly in Somerset, are too narrow for the vans, so that we've been able to do that. So we have a I'm going to say, a massive resource in comparison to many other places in the country. So we do have that available, which as local authorities or as groups that you can apply for in order to get that. So, but I think that's working with Lisa and her team. You can look at that.
We can, and we've also got the road safety team who complement the local work that's going on with an extra resource and ability to be able to be flexible where they go. So I will also feed that back to them. But fortuitously, we've got a very good community speedwatch expertise in Inspector Pritchard, who's here again tonight, that will help you before you leave. So Andy, if you don't mind picking up with this lady before she leaves, we'll take your details. And from what you're saying, if we've missed an opportunity to direct the patrols appropriately, this is something that we can put on our priority sheet, because speeding does get mentioned in most meetings that we ever go to. We do really try to make sure that we pick up where the problem is, what sort of healthy community speed watch there is, or where we can set one up, and what we need to do. But
Tell me all the hotspots.
well, if we could just take your details to make sure that we then get the right person round to see you and your sister at the right time, and then understand what the issue is, then we'll do that. Thanks, Andy.
Sorry, Kate, can we go to that lady and then we'll come to you. So.
Oh, I thought it was coming in for. Sorry, just a quickie. 101 number, anybody tried ringing that recently? 45 minutes I was left waiting the last time, and I give up.
Can I ask you when the last time was, sir?
Was it now? August.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we have done, we have put additional money into the 101. One of the things that I'm very clear about is that because we have smaller number of police officers, so we have to make sure that we answer that appropriately. Now, one of the things, how we measure how well we're answering 101 is the number of people who don't wait. So what we call an abandonment of the call. And we have about 5 to 6% calls get abandoned. And I'm not saying in August, because I haven't seen those figures, all right? But generally speaking, our average is between 4 and 6%. And this was a reflection because over the last, if we go back 2 or 3 years, people were waiting 30, 35 minutes, and now we have brought that right down to between up to 6 to 8 minutes, I think, is on average. So if you have a particularly evidence of a call that you didn't get answered, if you could let me know.
Oh, I waited. I got answered after 45. I just left me mobile phone on
45 minutes is not acceptable. All right, but first of all, can I also explain about how that 101 number gets abused? We have a number of callers, persistent callers, who may phone us hundreds, maybe nearly 2,000 times. And every time we're answering that call, we're not answering genuine 101 calls. We're doing a lot of work with the neighbourhood teams as well to work with those. We have a number of people who phone, of course, not, I'm not trying to be unfair, but who have Alzheimer's or dementia, and they can't remember when to put their bins out, or they can't remember, how to take their pills. So we have to work with their carers and everything else to be able to reduce this. But I'd like to apologise because we have put a serious amount of money into answering 101 calls. And if there is anyone who has, especially in the last 6 months, if you have had to wait what you think is for too long a period, could you? I'd be very happy for you to give me those specific details. You can email my office with the specific details, and I will personally go and have a look at them. All right, because it should.
Just quickly, the extra pound that you're going to be asking for again on the rates, council tax, do you realise that we have families in town, and everybody knows a pound's nothing for a month? I know that, 25 cents a week and all the rest of it. You take a family of 2 adults and 2 children who are working like agency working and so forth. They work so many days a week, then they're told a few days, we don't need you for a few days, then they're back again, their money gets short. They're just on the cusp of not being able to claim any benefit. A pound a month, a pound at the end of the month, means a lot to these people. And I actually know people that had to switch the heating off. We all heard about these stories before. They're on the ward that I represent. I know about 4 families on there, and there must be others elsewhere. who find it very, very difficult. They don't go buying lager and all the rest of it. They're just living. But that pound makes a huge difference to them. You want us to trust you. How about you trusting us? When you ask for that pound next time round, make it a voluntary payment and see how many people want to pay it.
Well, it's an interesting idea. I'm not sure it actually complies with the legislation. But let me first of all tell you is that I don't ask this extra money lightly.
No.
I know and that people are on fixed. There are a number of people who are on fixed incomes, fixed pensions, and I meet regularly those who find it a real struggle to get to the end of each month. I get that, but I also get the fact that people want more police. And when I go out and I go out to meet a lot of people, and when we did consultation for the pound that we asked for the last rise, we got between 70 and 90%, depending on the groups that we were talking to, that supported giving us that extra money. We're out to consultation now, and we will listen very carefully. But please don't for one moment think I don't treat this really lightly. This is a massive ask for people, but it is the only way that we are going to get extra officers. There is no extra money coming from central government.
Is there a way you could help these minority of people? It can't be a huge amount, just if they're that low on income.
Well, it would be less. It would be less than £1 in as much as it's £1 is for an average D band household. But please don't think that I take this decision.
No. I just wanted to make that point.
Okay. It's very quickly, sir, because you've already asked.
Yeah. Just moving on from that, how hard do you personally and your colleagues, PCC, to actually go to the government and say we want more money?
Well, yesterday for a start, and I go up to meet my fellow PCCs and the Home Office and the ministers, probably a couple of times a month, and they are fully aware. I mean, one of the unfair things in Avon Somerset is not only have we been hit by what's called austerity, by the cuts, but we've been also hit. We were hit from about 2007, 2008, when we don't get our fair funding for police in our area, full stop. So before austerity, okay, if you look at the average that is spent, when you look at the money that comes from central government, the average across the country is 1.75 per head of population. We get 1.48. We are already £14 million less than the average across the country. So if we had that 14 million, that would pay for 350 officers, full stop. So we've had a double whammy. We have a very unfair funding formula, which the government has promised us that they are going to review really urgently, and they tell me that every year. Then so it's something that we are constantly battling. But we have a double whammy. We have that what's called damping, that we don't get our fair funding, and then we've had austerity. But I can assure you, there is not one minister or one MP. We meet our MPs twice a year. We have another meeting with them in November, where we talk to all our MPs. So we have 16 parliamentary constituencies in Avon Somerset, and they are all fully aware, and the majority of them are fully supportive of asking the government for more money. There's someone right at the back, Mandy.
I heard your percentage that 80% of your work is regarding our vulnerable families, and yes, one of those vulnerable families with a young person that I was very grateful for the support that we received. And I must admit, the response we had was absolutely really, really fantastic. My then concerns was that the rest of the system, with the local authority, wasn't doing their part. My question to you today is that last week we heard that 15 million cuts are coming to the local authority, plus another 13. The cuts are coming in August and February, according to the Cabinet. Those cuts are to include the closures and reducing of services of 30 youth clubs, It gets set services for all our very, very young families, single families. They're also reducing the young carer service, as you've probably heard, which has a huge amount of our vulnerable young people who are the most at risk from grooming and drugs and alcohol and things like that, because they get caught up into the wrong communities. There's like cuts in our beds for our families who have the Alzheimer's. And then there's our learning disability young people or adults who are also having their services cut and their short breaks provisions cut. We've got a huge number of children who are being pushed out of education. So all these things that are happening, how is the local authority and our MPs working with you to ensure that the needs are going to be met with the increase of demand on your services that will be coming?
Well, thank you very much, and it is something that does keep me awake at night, to be honest. I think I work very closely with all the local authorities. I meet them on a very regular basis. They are in a very tough place. Central government has cut them quite drastically. There is also a model with that they will get increased money from business rates. I'm very concerned about that being a business model. We only have to look at our high streets to see that businesses are closing, and therefore if they're closed, they're not going to pay business rates. So I think there are some real concerns about the amount of money that has been cut from local authorities, and particularly Somerset County Council is the one that you've raised. I can only urge you to constantly contact your MPs, and because it has to come from central government. There is no other place. And what we are really concerned of with the police is because everyone is retrenching, that actually that is going to create more demand on the police, because we are ending up being the service of first resort and last resort. And that is a concern for all senior officers and I'm sure all those on the ground as well across the country. So there is real concerns, and those issues that you've mentioned, each and one and every one of those will have some sort of impact on the demand that the police have to work with, whether that's young people, whether that's mentally ill, whether that's a whole range of vulnerabilities. And so all we can do is make sure that we work with the authorities so that we are aware of where the cuts are coming, so we can do as much as we can to mitigate them. But I'm not going to stand here and say that it's a great place, because it's not.
Constable Mountstevens, could I ask you just one quick question? In all your meetings with ministers, etc., has any of them ever given you any clue as to why they're so entrenched on this foreign aid budget when there's so many demands in this country and people speaking roughly this country? Have any of them given you any idea why they stick to that foreign aid budget so religiously?
Well, no, they haven't, and that is a government's decision. And if you want to challenge the government's decision, then there will be a general election one day, and that will be the opportunity for you to be able to make that point.
Are the same, aren't they?
The reason that I am independent is that I don't do party politics.
It's ridiculous,
but
isn't it?
I have to say that no minister has ever consulted me as a PCC about the overseas grant. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we're on the subject of vulnerable people. Are your officers aware of the cuckooing aspects of drug dealers and what have you?
Yeah, do you want to talk about county lines?
Yeah, I mean, if I just give you a brief overview, and then Lisa will probably talk more locally. County lines is a term that has become very well known now. You may have seen things on the television or in the media about that. And in short, it's about gangs who operate in metropolitan areas, going into county-based areas because they believe that there's very vulnerable people there, and there are markets, drug markets, that essentially they can take over. This has pretty much hit every county within England and Wales, including, of course, Somerset, and it requires quite a sophisticated response. So first and foremost, it's about safeguarding those vulnerable people who you described the term cuckooing, where essentially their home, their benefits and everything about them is taken over by these organised criminals. But in addition to the safeguarding, obviously we do a great deal of work in trying to understand and then take out that drug hierarchy, which, as I said, in many ways can go back to big cities. I'll invite Lisa to talk about what's been happening locally, but there's been some excellent work done in neighbourhood and Somerset around this. As I touched upon earlier, much of that work sometimes we can't talk about because of the very nature of it, but please rest assured it is a priority for us. That's been reinforced by Sue's commitment to give us another £1 million to tackle high-end drug dealing, and we'll continue to make sure that vulnerable people in Somerset are not exploited in that way.
Yes, and in fact, had I had time, I was going to expand on it in the presentation. Because we live on the because this area is on the M5 corridor, so sort of Sedgemoor, Bridgwater and Taunton areas have been impacted quite heavily by county lines offending, and particularly our vulnerable people in those areas have taken a hit more broadly than other places in Somerset or in our constabulary area. It is, with some innovation very early on, we have a dedicated resource in Sedgemoor that works closely with our partners in the local authority to try and housing and all the other partners that it touches, to make sure that we understand as best we can, because all we can hope to do at neighbourhood level is disrupt that offending and protect the vulnerable, because the actual detecting and arresting the top end of the chain is very sophisticated, in-depth investigation work, which is not what we do on the ground here. So we look to protect those individuals, prevent them being cuckooed or being susceptible to the dealers, and to make sure we're doing all we can. And Sedgemoor's been lucky enough in the last 3 months to be gifted an additional grant from the Home Office, which has allowed us to take on a serious and organised crime officer working closely with police and the local authority to make sure that we now have got a bit of money and an independent resource to identify the groups that we need to be working with and what interventions we need to do to prevent them becoming susceptible. But of the priorities meeting that I told you I chaired this morning, I think there were 7 items on the agenda for mass discussion. 3 of them were related to this vulnerability type work. So it's a big proportion of our day job. It's in all of the team here, it's in all of their patrol plans on a daily basis. I can't say that we're winning the battle, but we're certainly aware of those people that, as best we can be, that we need to be supporting, and we're always looking to advance what we're doing to make sure we're protecting them.
Can I just add as well, just on that, whilst these operations can become very big, very sophisticated, in all my experience, they usually start off by a snippet of information from local people, in just the way that this lady here described. So if you are worried about somebody or you have seen something, please tell us, because often that's the first piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah. And if you're not happy to tell the police because you're too scared, then of course there's always Crime Stoppers number, which guarantees you anonymity. I've got time for one further question. So is there any more? Sorry, I'll come on to you afterwards, right? But this gentleman.
My question, sort of bottom end, relatively mundane, to be honest. With your plan with the PCOs being out in the community more, we live in a village community. What will their work patterns be? Because if they come out during the day, they're going to see the retired and the mums at home with children, possibly. They won't be seeing the sort of what I'll call the bigger players in a sense, the people who are going to be there at weekends, husbands, those that are business people, the ones who perhaps are the ones that need to be more involved.
I can answer that, hopefully alleviate your fears. Our PCSOs work 7 days a week. They don't work necessarily on all the bank holiday shifts, that's something we're looking at anyway, but they're there to cover all of the times of the day and night that, not all through the night, all the times of the day and late evening that cater for people that work, people that don't, people that retire, people with and without children. But they'll be there to also talk to the lead people in those communities to find out, well, actually, when do you need us here to be able to capture the audiences? And so if you think we're missing a trick when we start this enhanced engagement, please tell us how where we need to be and when that would capture a better audience, because we're very open to that. But they're absolutely there 7 days a week, weekends as much as weekdays, what we call anti-social hours. That's part of their role. You should see an improvement in that. At the moment they work a shift pattern that sees that they're off for 4 block days. They won't be doing that. There are no 4, or there are very few 4 block days in their shift pattern, so there should be a more continuous link.
Thank you. There's no such thing as a mundane question as well. Thank you all very much. I'd like to do a number of thank yous. Thank you to Jill for inviting us and being part of opening tonight's forum. I'd like to thank my team, who I know have worked their socks off, and I'd like to thank everyone from the police who have contributed to tonight, and no doubt all the extra work that's been generated from today about how seriously we take listening to local people. But most of all, I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, because you have given up your evening to be able to find out more about the police, and it really impresses me that there are so many of you that have come out to be able to tell us where we can make a better service. So thank you very much, and safe journey home.